Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. I am your host, Rabia Anwar, Research Associate at the Center for Law and Security, and I warmly welcome you all to the exclusive dialogue session with Ambassador Ashraf Jahangir Qazi, a distinguished diplomat, Pakistan's former Foreign Secretary and former ambassador to China, India, and the United States of America. Sir, thank you so very much for joining us here today. It's a pleasure having you. We are going to discuss a very timely, very pertinent, and very imminent subject of contemporary international politics. One that might be a historic event to end the ongoing hostilities between US, Israel, and Iran, and which has complicated world trade, destabilized international politics, and almost plunged an entire region into a catastrophic war. So the discussion of today will be the prospects of U.S.-Iran negotiations, the future of Strait of Hormuz, and Pakistan's emerging role as a key mediator. And the discussion shall be moderated by Mr. Rahman Azhar, the Executive Director of CLAS. Without any further ado, sir, I would like to begin.
This is perfect.
All
So,
right.
Ambassador, let me just begin by thanking you for joining
Yeah.
us today for this webinar. It's always a pleasure having you on this webinar series. This war has dragged on for some time. It's been more than a
Well,
month. So
yes.
why do you think that there hasn't been a ceasefire, or there seems to be a sort of deadlock that both parties are not coming to an agreement with regards to a ceasefire? So what do you think? Where are the obstacles?
Well, for one thing, Iran is not interested in a ceasefire as such. They have been violated in the most blatant and illegal manner by the criminal assault of the United States and of Israel. And they say, you terminate this violation. And they have made points, here that uh, terminate your war of aggression, war of choice, which is a crime that embodies which is one of the gravest international crime that is possible because it includes all the crimes which are possible: a war of choice, a war of aggression, a war without legitimate cause. And this attack, this assault on Iran is utterly illegal according to the United Nations Charter, which says there is a procedure, which you have to go to the United Nations Security Council, and you have to get an authority to sort of, undertake hostilities. You can't just attack a country which has not attacked you and then demand negotiations or a ceasefire or whatever, or surrender, whatever. So Iran's position is terminate this. And then they have other conditions, which are very strict conditions, because they have suffered so much damage in terms of life, in terms of property, and they will demand reparations. They will demand that the criminals be brought to justice in accordance with maybe the ICC, the International Criminal Court, and international law. And they've also demanded that American bases be removed from the region from which they attacked Iran without any reason, without any provocation.
All right. Now, I just want to understand Pakistan's role in this negotiation process and also the
Yes.
conflict as well. How do you see Pakistan's role? What are the challenges? And how Pakistan has emerged, and why Pakistan has emerged as a key peace broker between US and Iran?
Well, we have not yet achieved that status, as I explained right at the beginning. Pakistan has conveyed messages from the United States to Iran. Iran has accepted the messages, but has refused to reply to them, and it has publicly made its own demands, which I mentioned. And the United States and Pakistan and Iran's position is those 5 demands. And they say they welcome Pakistan seeking to play a role that can bring about peace and bring about an end to the suffering of the people of Iran. And Pakistan has also condemned the actions of the assault in the United Nations. So so Iran welcomes Pakistan's position with regard to the conflict, but Pakistan is not playing a broker's role. You see, there's a difference between playing the role of a messenger and the role of a mediator. A
Right.
mediator goes to one party, gets its views, goes to the other party, gets its views. Then, on the basis of those views, it presents a view which tries to blend or reconcile those two opposing views and puts them to both parties in the hope that they will reduce the gap and eventually come to some sort of agreed understanding on how peace can be restored. Pakistan
Right.
is not playing that role because Iran doesn't want that role to be played. Iran has said that we are the victims, that crime against us has to be removed. When that is removed, then if there's anything to negotiate, we will certainly negotiate. Iran has always said that they're open to negotiations, but this is not a difference that has to be reconciled. This is a crime that has to be redressed by first being eliminated and then discussing how peace can be put on a stable basis afterwards so that there is no repeat of this crime.
All right, and both parties have there's a huge difference between their position, how US sees this conflict and how Iran views it. Do you think that there is some sort of middle ground
No.
where they can both come to an agreement?
How can there be a middle ground between a crime and somebody who is trying to defend himself against that crime? There is a, if there was if it were a dispute like the Kashmir dispute, India has one position, we have another position, and all, and we want to implement to try and get a resolution of that dispute in accordance with international law, which in this case would be the United Nations Security Council resolutions on Kashmir. So
Right.
that is a different matter. And if any country wishes to play a mediating role, Pakistan has, in principle, welcomed that you know our position, you know the Indian position, and international law is clear because there are UN Security Council resolutions. So within that framework, if it's possible, and we sometimes, it appeared in the past, if you remember, there were the 4-point proposals and there were other proposals over the past 50 or 60 years, which came to nothing in the end because of India's lack of good faith. But the fact of
Right.
the matter is that is a situation in which you can have mediation. But in this particular situation, वन कंट्री अनफॉर्चुनेटली, क्या मैं अर्ज करूं, हुंडा का रोल अदा करता है और फिर वो कहते हैं आपकी एक राय है, हमने आपके आपके घर पे वार किया है, आप अपने घर को बचाने की कोशिश में हैं, आप आए और वो एक कोई दरमियाना को मिड कोई मिड
Middle ground.
रोल मिडिल ग्राउंड आप पैदा करें भाई। एक तो आपने वार किया, आपने रात पे ढाका मार दिया और हम अपने घर को बचाने की कोशिश में है, इसमें reconciliation की क्या बात है? International law is there. It's a
Right.
complete open violation. No, it's very
And
important for.
do you
If I
see
may just
something?
continue, if I may
Right.
continue just for
Yes.
2 seconds, it's
Yes.
very important for the people of Pakistan to understand this essential difference between a dispute which can be mediated in accordance with UN resolutions and international law and an international crime which has to be reversed before any negotiations can even become possible.
All right. I think this is the point. But
Yeah,
also, do you see anything unusual with this conflict? Because what we have seen is shorter conflicts, especially when there is a superpower like US
yes,
involved,
yes,
and there is a smaller country on the other side.
yes,
And conflicts usually drag on, just like
yeah,
Iran-Iraq war, which
that's
went
right.
on where both parties were like honest, had
Yeah,
similar strength. Why do
yes.
you think that this conflict had been prolonged? And even with all the military might, US has not been able to close this transaction or this conflict. So I just want to understand what is happening, and do you see a way out of it, of this conflict?
Well, first of all, you're very right. This war has surprised the entire world, including the United States and including Israel, all of whom take great pride in their technological prowess, in their information systems, in their ability to penetrate countries. And after all, on the very first day, they criminally assassinated the supreme leader of Iran, which is not done in a war. In a war, armies clash, one wins, one loses, there are negotiations afterwards, and then various reparations or whatever may happen and all. This was a assault which took place while the United States was negotiating with Iran, about peace, and President Trump was saying we are making good progress and we need to go a little more in order to have some progress. And at the very next day, according to a plan with Israel, they attacked. So in other words, negotiations were used as a deception to launch a surprise attack, a decapitation, which was aimed not at any military target, but at the political heads. And the government in Iran is in accordance with the Iranian constitution. And the supreme leader, Imam Khamenei, he was a constitutionally elected. Now, you may or may not agree with the Iranian constitution, that's your view, but that view is they were legitimately elected leadership of Iran. Now, you may like the regime, you may not like the regime, that's another matter and all. But here, negotiations with it were taking place. Negotiations with it as the government of Iran were taking place, when at the same time, those negotiations were used as camouflage to launch a criminal attack. And Oman and these countries which were involved in those negotiations, and Qatar, they took great exception themselves at being deceived by this assault, which completely compromised their image, because they also sought to have good relations with Iran, and they were playing this role. And Iran had made a number of concessions which it was not required to do, but it did it in order to avoid war. Because there was already the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, according to which Iran had already agreed to reduce enrichment to 3.37%, which is way, way below anything that can be for nuclear, can only be used for civilian. And Hormuz was open. Hormuz was not closed. Hormuz was open, and yet this attack took place. The enormity, the criminal staggeringness of this thing needs to be appreciated by every citizen of the world, especially in the Muslim world, especially in Pakistan, which is a neighbor and has such good relations with Iran. Iran, a country that has always supported Pakistan in its differences, particularly with regard to Kashmir and all of that. Of course, neighbors sometimes have differences and problems and here and there. वो अपनी जगह है, लेकिन किसी तरह भी वो कोई पाकिस्तान का दुश्मन मुल्क बिल्कुल नहीं था, लेकिन उनके साथ जो हुआ, लेकिन उसके बावजूद ईरान ने कहा कि अगर आप कोई रोल अदा कर सकते हैं तो कीजिएगा, हमें एतराज नहीं है, लेकिन हमारी पोजीशन जो है वो वाज़े है और इन 5 नुकात पे मबनी है. हमने किसी से बात नहीं करनी है जब तक ये हमला को रिवर्स ना किया जाए.
Right. Rabia, do you have a question? Go ahead, please. Rabia, I think you're still on mute.
Yes, please. Sir, my question is कि अभी recently जो पाकिस्तान ने एक ceasefire framework propose किया है, जो कि अभी हमें we are not sure कि ये accept किया जाएगा, but in case ये accept किया जाता है, तो इसकी क्या longevity होगी? One question, and sir, the other one is कि what significance does Islamabad Accord hold for Pakistan, like in terms of Pakistan's international standing and its economy? What is at stake and what is in it for Pakistan? That's all.
Well, if I may say so, ये जो 5-point proposal है जो पाकिस्तान ने भी पेश किया और वो चीन से बातचीत करके पेश किया है, so this in that sense is a joint Chinese Pakistan proposal. And this is a very constructive proposal because this is more than just conveying a message. This is actually indicating that China has also entered into the diplomatic game. And China has so much good faith in Pakistan that it's using Pakistan as a partner because of our very fine relations with China, and we are a neighbor of Iran and good relations with Iran, and we also have good relations with America. तो उसको देखते हुए चीन ने अपना diplomatic initiative लिया in cooperation with Pakistan. So those are very, very important points. Now, as far as ceasefire is concerned, Iran appreciates the role Pakistan is playing, appreciates the role that China is playing, लेकिन वो अपने मौक़िफ़ पर वो खड़े हैं और वो मौक़िफ़ ये है कि सीज़ फायर का सवाल ही नहीं पैदा होता है जब तक ये हमला जो है ख़त्म उनकी तरफ से नहीं होता है। हमने क्या किया कि हमने सीज़ फायर करना है, हमने किस पे वार किया है, हमने तो किसी भी, और हमने जवाब ही किया है कि जहां से उन्होंने ईरान पे अटैक किया, यानी कि अरब ममालिक जो है खलीज के अरब ममालिक से अमेरिका के बेसिस जो उनकी ज़मीन पर हैं वहां से उन्होंने ईरान पे अटैक किया। तो ईरान ने तो बहुत पहले से कहा था कि हम पे अटैक होगा, जहां से अटैक होगा हम उसका जवाबी हमला करेंगे। उनकी कोई दुश्मनी उनके साथ बिल्कुल नहीं है, वो भी मुसलमान ममालिक हैं, लेकिन किसी हद तक वो शायद कुछ ईरान से उनके ताल्लुकात इतने अच्छे नहीं हैं, लेकिन पाकिस्तान को इसमें मुलव्वस करने की वो कोशिश कर रहे हैं। लेकिन पाकिस्तान का मौक़िफ़ बहुत सही है कि हम चीन से अपनी पोजीशन को कोऑर्डिनेट करके अपना एक रोल अदा करने की कोशिश करेंगे, और वो बहुत अच्छा रोल है। बाकी आपने क्या फरमाया? So, what was your other question?
बाकी पाकिस्तान के डिप्लोमेटिक स्टैंडिंग के हवाले से राबिया asked.
No, माशाल्लाह पाकिस्तान की diplomatic standing में इजाफा हुआ है as a result of this role that we are playing and as a result of China's trust in Pakistan, and China is a critically important country. China ही ने पाकिस्तान की मदद की पिछले साल जब भारत के साथ वो हमारी जंग हुई है, और चाइना ही रूस के साथ मिलकर ईरान की मदद कर रहा है। तो पाकिस्तान पोजीशन इज वेरी consistent here, very consistent है, लेकिन अमेरिका की कोशिश है और चंद और ममालिक की कोशिश है कि पाकिस्तान के ताल्लुकात शायद चीन के साथ कुछ गड़बड़ आ जाए या ईरान के साथ, वो पाकिस्तान ने माशाल्लाह अब तक ये नहीं होने दिया।
ठीक।
Very well, sir. Thank you so very much, sir. And with this, I would like to conclude our today's session.
Thank you so much, Ambassador sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Khuda Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, sir. Thank you.